This is Market News First. News you can trust.
Well, welcome back to Market News First. This is Simon Speight covering profiles today, and thank you there for Steve Cannible's report from New York. That was a few weeks ago. As I mentioned prior to going to the interview, the Fed is facing considerable pressure next week to lower interest rates, and as you know, that's going to have a major effect on the economy. And hopefully it will aid to pick up the housing market, for example. That information, that news report, is scheduled to be released at 1:15 Eastern Time, Wednesday next week. Also, news from China. China's facing mounting pressure to slow its economic monumental growth, with its retail growth up 17%. Now, just to put that into perspective, the U.S. retail sales hit 20 consecutive weeks of growth, but it's considerably lower than the Chinese at a meager 4.6% over the same period for 2002. So just to get that in perspective, China's seeing some incredible changes. So that's going to be interesting. We'll be talking about that during the show. And before we go into some other topics, let's take a look at the stock tickers for today. And as you can see, the S&P 500 is down 0.02 points. The S&P Mid-Cap 400, that is up 0.26%. And the Small Cap 600 is up 24%, as you can see from the ticker symbols there. Okay, and the FX Yen Trust account is down 6.06%, and the Dow Jones is up 0.10%. So there's some interesting movement in the stock market there. And if we can go to the microcap review and talk about that for a second. If we can bring that the ticker symbols up for that, EWZ. Obviously, we can't bring that right now, so let's go into our next spot, the China 3Com OTC Bulletin Board, retailer and distributor of consumer and business products in China, reaffirmed today that its purchase business operations are running well. The company expects results in the second half of 2007, absent any acquisitions, to be smaller than those in the first half of the year. Still moving, of course. If we can bring that stock ticker symbol up, I'd appreciate it. But let's move on to Soho Incorporated, an innovative provider of computer and consumer electronics broadband products. Today announced that Team Soyo, teams Kellen Floodkicker and Steve Steinbeiss, will be fighting in King of Cage this weekend. The fights will take place on Saturday, September 15th, 2007, at the Apache Gold Casino Resort in the Globe, Arizona. Edward A. Bryan, Director of Marketing of Soyo, said, "Our MAA marketing continues to be a successful marketing venture for Soho. The King of Cage DVDs are one of the best-selling MMA DVDs, and these two fights will be a part of DVDs released in the future. With two fights in the King of the King Cage event, we are looking forward to even more exposure for the Soyo brand," he said. Okay, so we can bring you those ticker symbols right now. So let's go to PLKT. If we can go to that slide, please. That's Planktos, HTOC.com. That's HOTOC.com, announces coverage of Planktos Corporation. If we can take a look at that slide, you can see that they've shown a slight rise over the past few days at just under 80 cents. And they announced that it has secured private placement funding of up to $2 million. The company has recently received $1.1 million in funding and anticipates receiving the remainder of the $2 million shortly. Interesting news there. And let's move on to the next slide. OEGY, Open Energy filled an 8K, where here is what he has to say. On August 2028, Open Energy Corporation, the company, executed a partially binding term sheet with Sun Power Company, documenting a broad supply relationship between the company and the STP, which was the subject of a letter of intent between companies announced May 15, 2007. Among other terms and conditions contained in the term sheet, the parties have agreed to general terms of original equipment manufacturer supply agreement, pursuant to the STP will provide the company with its SolarSafe tile product, which is an interesting product, while the terms and conditions of the final agreement, supply agreement, are negotiated. Okay, thank you for that. We can move on to the next. PSPP Holdings getting crushed after offering a stock dividend. Not a very smart move. We can go to the next slide. SAMC, Samsonite Corporation, company you probably heard of, on the bulletin board today, reported revenues of $292 million, operating income of $16.8 million, and a net loss to stockholders of $7 million, pardon me, and a net loss of 0.01 per common share. Not very good news there. Ended on July 31st, 2007. These results compare to revenue of $257 million, operating income of 13.9, and a net loss to common stockholders of $6 million, on a net loss of 0.03 per common share. For the second quarter of the prior year, that was, operating income was reduced on charges of 3.9 in fiscal 2008 and 4.9 million fiscal year 2007. The write-off of deferred offering costs terminated the secondary stock offering, which was commenced but not completed in both years, as well as restructuring charges of the 0.3 million in fiscal year 2008 and 1.8 million in fiscal 2007. The restructuring charges relate to the closure of the company's Denver, Colorado facilities and related consolidation of its corporate functions in its Mansfield, Massachusetts offices. Planned relocation of its distribution function from the company's Denver, Colorado facilities to Jacksonville, Florida will take place. For the 6 months ended 31st of July 2007, revenue was $557 million. Operating income was $36.3 million, and the net loss common stockholders was $10 million. Not a very good picture, and a net loss of 0.01 per common share. And let's move to the next segment I want to bring up today, and that's something from Steve Coffey, Farmers Branch Politics. If we can go to that segment, we'll be back in a second. Thank you for watching. Okay, well, we're just going to be bringing that segment up in a second, and so we'll go back to talking about some of the stories today. Obviously, with the increase in the oil prices, we're going to be seeing probably petrol pump rises, but some interesting news as the petrol prices, gas prices they call it in America, I know, gas prices go up. In fact, your weight goes down, according to a study that I found this morning. Researchers link gas prices to obesity. Lower gas prices, people tend to put the weight on. Higher gas prices obviously mean that people lose weight. People tend to walk more. People tend to do things on the public transport. People go out less to restaurants. That's what the report finds. So let's go to that segment with Andrew Coffey.